Let's consider a number of different assessment innovations and whether they might be right for you and your institution. It's important to note that innovation is unlikely to come through one single change. Evaluating different subject areas, their contexts, and your students will lead to a recipe for innovation being a blend of different measures. Open book. Through necessity, the number of open book assessments has increased. The concern is that academic integrity may well have reduced with the advent of more open book exams. But that might be a product of circumstances rather than a problem with open book exams themselves. An open book exam has to be written to be open book, which creates a difficulty when asking students to recall facts because they can use other sources. There is a question as to whether fact recollection really does test as we should in the modern world. Of course, there are facts and principles that a student should know without having to look them up. But is the blend right in your assessments today? The reality is that students have access to so much information now at the touch of a button and have become so reliant on it that there is a question as to whether fact recall has become redundant. An open book assessment written to be open book allows you to give students parity of information and then test their application of that information. Testing their application can be less susceptible to them being able to copy and paste from other sources, but instead testing their ability. Choose your own assessment. Assessments map to learning outcomes that institutions set a specific assessment so those learning outcomes can be tested. But imagine a world in which students are given free choice as to how to meet those learning outcomes. This might not be something that is appropriate for every level of study, but for students who are mature enough to select how they are going to demonstrate their learning, it would allow them to do so in a format of their choice. Perhaps the restrictions so far have been more than just regulation. It's been a concern about the administrative burden of allowing lots of different assessment formats. With a digital assessment platform, you have the ability to let students use the digital tools that they use when being taught to allow them to showcase their understanding of a learning outcome. Oral exams. Oral exams have two distinct benefits. The first is that it allows the examiner to ask follow-up questions based on what the student says to either further probe their understanding or to elicit further information that demonstrates that a candidate really can show that they understand how a learning outcome is to be assessed. The second is that it helps students demonstrate that their answers are authentic. Collaboration. When teaching students, we encourage them to collaborate. When it comes to assessments, often for good reason, we require them to demonstrate their knowledge, skills, and understanding by themselves rather than that of others. There is a space in the assessment diet for collaboration that isn't just a group project or an assessment that's been used in the past, but instead an assessment where students collaborate with one another, and that collaboration is assessed before they then individually produce work that is assessed. For example, asking students to research a point together, then taking that research and individually writing answers to a question. Their ability to work together and their ability to work individually can be judged within the same assessment. Question banks and smarter assessments. Question banks serve two purposes. With large, calibrated banks of questions, you can deliver different but equally challenging questions to a large group of students, reducing the concern about collusion in a summative assessment. In a formative context, it allows students the opportunity to practice and receive automated feedback. The next step is to use these large question banks in an adaptive assessment using item response theory. And with this, you can create assessments that adapt to the level of difficulty in real time to the performance of a student. With Inspira, you can drive innovation in your assessment strategy and practice.